Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Jordan, also known as JMonster. I want to thank you for joining me for another replay battle. Today I've got a 1 versus 1 on 30s Reforged, and we're going to be returning to the 1v1s for a little while. I think they are really interesting matchups. Not only do they highlight faction versus faction dynamics really well, they're very deliberate, very tactical, and there's a lot of thought goes into them, especially when you have two good players with evenly matched army compositions, which is exactly what I have for you today. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and let's take a look at the army comps, and then we can get into the replay itself. I hope you guys enjoy it. The first army we're going to look at today is the forces of Rhudaur, being commanded by FFA Muffins, who actually sent in the replay to me. So a big thank you to him for supporting the channel. I really do appreciate it. But yeah, in any case, he's got one unit here of the Trollshire Axe Throwers, which I believe is his single and solitary unit. He's got a couple units of the Dunmen Hunters, really more useful for their numbers and for their ability to soak enemy ranged pressure than they are for anything else. Behind them, he's got a unit of Rhudaur Marksmen, who are a little bit more deadly. They've got more ammunition than your average archer, but they also have 5 missile damage, which is pretty standard for your Kingdoms of Men mainline archer units. Supporting them, he's got a couple units of Edmore Troll Hunters, who are an Inspire unit, also a Spear unit, but also a Javelin unit. So there's a lot packed into this Swiss Army knife of a unit. And behind them, he's got a unit of Dunmen Spearmen. So his front line is quite well defended here from any cavalry charges and taking this army comp straight on. Actually, what do you know? He's got a couple units of Trollshire Axe Throwers, as it happens. So very stacked skirmish line, which is one that I really seem to see a lot of Rhudaur players favor. I first started noticing one of our developers using it, and I assume he's been using them in tournaments and using them in online battles, and it's kind of started to catch on. Or maybe people have just come up with it independently, I don't know. But Rhudaur has a lot of really nice skirmish options, and a lot of bowmen, like what you see here, to try and soak up enemy arrow fire, use up resources, maybe even bait your enemy into charging you frontally, is really useful for expending enemy resources so they're not able to counter your javelins with missile fire later on in the game, which is going to leave the Rhudaur javelin forces, which are quite numerous and quite deadly, free to do their bloody work. So I really like this as an army comps. I find that it works quite well, and I'm starting to see a lot more of it. I think you guys will probably be seeing more of it in the future as well. In any case, he's got a couple units here of the Coldfell Maidens, who are a Cav unit. They are also Spear Cavalry, so very useful. Again, a lot of utility rolled into a lot of Rhudaur units. Got some Rhudaur Clansmen here. I believe there's 4 or 5 units of them. Some of them are mixed in with the pikes on the front line. They've got an armor upgrade, so that's what their armor upgrade looks like. It looks really good, actually. I've also got some Hereditine Pikemen who are going to be backing up the Rhudaur Clansmen on the front line. Not a lot of infantry, as you've probably noticed. Most of their army are skirmish forces. So if by some means your enemy is able to counter your skirmish advantage quite heavily, the Elves, for example, would be really useful at doing that, then your very small infantry line could find itself in a lot of trouble. Not a lot of protection and such once the ranged forces ammunition is expended. Over here we got some Witch Realm Enslavers, which is not a unit that I see every day. And it's nice too. They are essentially two-handed axes with a little bit of cavalry, anti-cavalry bonus, so a lot of utility on a unit like this. And they are also 2 HP. Expensive though, and quite small. And behind them we have a unit of Hereditine Nobles. Really nice knight unit here from Rhudaur. More lightly armored than a lot of knights, but they are AP. I'm pretty sure that they're AP. I think they got a little bit of a damage nerf by like 1 or something like that in the hotfix, but they're still a very solid unit. And I think that just about does it for Rhudaur's army, so let's see what his opponent has brought to the battle today. Across the field, we have the forces of Gondor, being commanded by Macrognor Knight, otherwise known as DIKD, as you may have seen him in some of my previous videos. He's got a couple units here of Gondor archers with full armor upgrades. Doesn't look like he's really gone all that skirmish heavy. It seems that the approach that the Gondor player here is going to be taking is to try, it's very similar to the Rhudaur player's approach actually, is to use up their enemy's ammunition. So I'm starting to see this more and more. Normally I would see people try and bring in a minimum of 3 archers, but with factions like Gondor or Arthedain or any faction that has a really a archer unit with really strong defensive values, they tend to bring only a couple, and that leaves them a little bit of extra money to spend elsewhere. Maybe they'll use the extra money on a ranger unit, for example, just for that extra utility. But it seems like the trend of less being more in terms of archers is starting to take hold. Though you wouldn't really know it by looking at the Rhudaur army, but this is a very specific strategy. But this is also something that the Gondor player is doing that I'm starting to see a lot more in some of the replays that I'm going to be able to show to you guys over the next few days. But in any case, he's got some Gondor infantry, some Fountain Guard backing them up as well. Central line is Ramsek or Garrison, so a little bit cheaper here on the front line infantry, but they are being backed up while he has Gimli pikes, who are no joke, and I think there's maybe 1 or 2 units in there. I could be wrong about that. I'm only seeing 1 banner, so I think it's just 1 unit of pikes in the center. Another combination here of Gondor Infantry and Fountain Guard. And we've got Gondor Infantry and Gondor Spearmen working together. Some Spearmen as well to back up his cavalry, which the Gondor players really invest quite heavily in. So we've got some Rohirrim cavalry, some Gondor cavalry with full armor upgrades. Some Gandalf's Retinue Bodyguard, which is... there's been some discussions about this unit's name, like a Retinue Bodyguard. Retinue and Bodyguard are not synonyms. Retinue can be anything, so the name is not actually redundant. I have heard that in the past, and I will address that right now. I don't think that the name is redundant, since a retinue can be a number of things. It could just be like a general staff, not necessarily warriors, not necessarily people who are there to give their life for your general. So no, I don't find it redundant. I think the name is just fine. But a couple units here are the Penthgalen Cavalry, who actually have their armor upgrades. You get a chance to look at it right there. Although it's hard to see because they're a little bit muddy. Yes, I know people aren't happy with how the weather effects work right now. They will get changed in a future patch, but I don't know when that future patch is going to come. So believe me, your feedback has been heard, and it is something that will very likely change in the future. But for the time being, we're all just going to have to live with it. But yes, 2 units of Penthgalen Cavalry, and then another unit of Gondor Cavalry over here as well. So 5 units of cavalry. It's a nice, strong army, and decent one for dealing with the Rhudaur force across the way from them. Although I would definitely have brought a ranger unit, and I don't see one here right now from DI, but you know, rangers they have a tendency to hide everywhere and be sneaky and jump out when you least expect them, so we may see them a little bit later in the battle. But in any case, that does it for the army comps. Let's go ahead and jump into the replay. Now, as one would expect from a skirmish-heavy army like Rhudaur, deploying this close to the Gondorians, there's a skirmish fight that's going to happen pretty well immediately. But there is a bit of a ranged advantage here, and I think that's because of the hill. Now, important thing to note, and I don't know if everyone knows this, hills will actually give you a little bit of extra range. But they're kind of tricky. So sometimes hills will make your unit think that they have range, and they'll go through the firing animations, but they'll just continuously misfire and not shoot anything. But in this case, the Dunman Hunters actually have less range, I believe, than the Gondor Archers. So the fact that they are on a hill here is making a slight difference. And, you can see the practical effects of it. So Gondor is going to be forced to move forward. I think a little bit they had to scoot forward. Yeah, just a little bit from their initial starting position. Now they're beginning to open fire on the Dunlenders, which this is going to take some time. So we're going to go ahead and fast forward through this a little bit before the action really starts to take off on the flanks and in the center and stuff like that. But for the time being, it is going to be a pretty long and protracted skirmish phase. But I don't want you guys to miss anything, so I am going to just fast forward through this instead of making a little bit of a cut. So you can see the Rhudaur formation is really making all of the difference here. They've got a lot of numbers, and that's they've got a lot of numbers, which in and of itself for an archer unit is great for soaking up ammunition, but they've also spread themselves very, very thin, so it makes it quite hard for arrows to hit them. So if you look here, some of the arrows do actually go overhead and end up missing them, and it does take its toll in the long term. Over here we got the Rhudaur axe throwers tossing their payload into the Penthgalen Cavalry, who I don't think saw them. Ooh, that was a really nice ambush there, but the Penthgalen Cavalry are going to manage to connect. And now with some of that supporting archer fire, there is going to be some friendly fire that goes into these Trollshaw axe throwers as well. But yeah, that ended up being very costly. And I think some of the Coldfell Maids were tossing their javelins into these guys as well. Now, it really does remain to be seen here if that's going to be worth it. Just wasting the ammunition of some of these harder hitting troops. It will spare his frontline infantry a little bit as the game goes on. But yeah, it's really tough to lose a cavalry unit like that really, really early on. And you gotta head into the Rhudaur player. They were definitely expecting a cavalry charge, and they deployed accordingly with all their stakes and their long, thin skirmish line. It really does make it hard for cavalry to make a frontal charge. And as you saw here, the Penthgalen Cavalry charging their way into the Dunman Hunters did a fair amount of damage to them, and that's actually going to even out the skirmish fight a little bit in favor of Gondor. You can see that the Gondorian skirmishers have basically, except for this unit here that really came under some heavy fire early on in the game, they've basically been left to do their thing. Now these Gondorian archers, they're now being left alone, as most of the Rhudaur attention is focused on this one unit here of the Penthgalen Cavalry. So they're going back for round 2 here. A nice little charge along the flank of that unit of Dunman Hunters. This is actually going to pay off a little bit for DI, though of course he wants to be a little bit careful. Don't want to get too close to these stakes. Charging into those Rhudaur marksmen would not be a good thing. Dunman Hunters, however, do not have the greatest morale, and taking shock damage like that from a unit of Panic Galen Cavalry who are very deadly on the charge with their 21 or so charge bonus in total. It can be pretty nasty for a militia unit who's not really built to stand up to this sort of thing. So DI going to cycle back out of there, having done a fair amount of damage here to the Rhudaur archers. Now you can see the Rhudaur units moving forward. There's an opportunity here. These Panic Galen Cavalry could be brought into the flank here of both the Rhudaur marksmen and the Dunman hunters, and yeah, it would actually be really, really useful. And I think DI actually recognizes this opportunity, and so he's going to go for it against these Dunman hunters. But it remains to be seen if they're going to be able to disengage or not. But meanwhile, while this cavalry is running amok in and amongst the Rhudaur archers, the Gondor archers are free to do their thing. So the Rhudaur player are going to move forward with some of his Coldfell maidens, try and counter this, tossing their javelins into these units. Ooh, very, very close to the stakes there indeed. It seems like the Panic Galen Cavalry are going to want to get out of there as quickly as possible. It was a really good idea, but the Rhudaur player had the right reaction to that, and moving forward with his Coldfell maidens that really did put the hurt onto these poor Panic Galen Cavalry. What do we got over here? Another frontal charge. Oh, are they going to make it? They're not going to make it for the Rhudaur Axewar's toss into them. Oh, that's so nasty. Oh, it hurts so much. Yeah, that really does suck. I definitely would not have gone back for another charge against these guys, but again, it does waste ammunition, and the Trollshaw Axewar's, I think, have only about 4 ammunition, so they're already down to half. So that is going to seriously impede their effectiveness as the game wears on. Let's see, those Panic Galen Cavalry managed to get out of there relatively scot-free. They did lose, actually, quite a lot. There's, I think there's about 7 models there that got dropped, but this has evened out the skirmish fight. And I think the Rhudaur player was really counting on these. So yeah, Gondor is they're definitely still in this. They can bring back the skirmish fight, and then they can begin to focus in on some of these Rhudaur units. Now they are quite lightly armored, but what the Rhudaur clansmen and the Rhenanite pikemen have going for them is shield values. The clansmen have pretty nice shield values, and the Rhenanite pikemen are one of the few pikes in the game to have a shield value. I think the only other one is the whatever the Umbar equivalent is, like Narnar Sentinels or something like that. There's a lot of Narnar units, so hard to keep them all in order in my mind. Gandalf's Retinue Bodyguard. Looks like DI is bringing out the heavy hitters. Wanting to get a piece of the Rhudaur marksman. He is actually going to succeed in driving them back, but he's not going to inflict any casualties, unfortunately, because of this line of Dunman spearmen here. And of course, the stakes are high. So it was a good idea for DI to pull back, because the Rhudaur player would have simply countered with archers and the spearmen, and of course the Coldfell maidens, who are quite nasty against heavy cavalry. So now here's some Gondor archers. I think they're going to go after... They might be going after the Coldfell maidens. No, it doesn't seem like it. They're probably just trying to focus down these big blobs of archers in the center here, just trying to get a lot of value out of their archer companies. Do we have 2 units of Rhudaur marksmen on the field? I thought we only had the 1. No, we actually have 2. What do you know? That's a lot of archers from Rhudaur here. 4 units of archers. Very, very expensive indeed to invest in that many archers. But so far it's paying off. It's hard to tell. It's a nice back and forth here, and I think DI has done a really good job at trying to even out the fight. But now the Rhudaur player is going to be a little bit more cautious. You can see that they've brought all their skirmish forces back behind that wall of spearmen. And some of these cavalry, I think, might be a little bit too far ahead of themselves, and this is actually a really big mistake here on the part of DI. You don't want to be in a column formation like this. It is so easy for skirmishers to do damage to your archers. That's it's honestly not worth it. It really decreases the longevity of your archers by a significant margin. I'm sure DI, once he notices it, will begin to try and even this out a little bit. Again, no Retinue Bodyguard, it seems, coming under fire. But they are shielded, and they're very heavily armored with 2 HP, so they're going to be able to stand up to that just fine. And maybe this is what DI wants. Maybe that's what he's counting on, because it doesn't seem like him to just leave a unit of cavalry out here to get shot. I think because there are 4 archers across the fields, he wants to waste some of that ammunition, which is not a bad idea. This unit can soak it for a long time, and it's an expensive Lancer unit. The enemy is going to be tempted to shoot at it, so it's some interesting, what appears to be at least mind games on the part of DI. One thing to keep in mind, however, as we move into the mid-game, or about halfway through the replay, there's still another company of Trollshaw Axewar's over here. So that's pretty nasty indeed. But there is a lot of Gondor cavalry that can potentially run them down if they are revealed a little bit too early. Let's see here. It seems like the 109 nobles are now moving on to the same wing as the Trollshaw Axewar's, which is actually good deployment. When it comes time, and it will eventually come time for these 2 armies to clash it proper, using this unit to support a unit of Trollshot Axe Throwers and to zone out enemy cavalry, which for the most part is Lancers. There are some Gondor cavalry who are Spear Cav, but really they can't hold a candle to the Rhudaur Nobles. So using this unit in conjunction with the Trollshot Axe Throwers to give them opportunity to fire and to just make it harder for your enemy is a good idea. So it seems like the Rhudaur player has a plan, and we're going to see that unfold as the battle goes on. But now we've lapsed back into the skirmish phase. It really would behoove DI to try and even out this this formation a little bit here. They'd be able to be a lot more effective and to last for a heck of a lot longer versus this mass volley fire from Rhudaur. It doesn't even seem like the Rhudaur player is really using any unit but one of his depleted ones here, and that's all he needs to do. I mean, look at the damage that he's inflicting on these heavily armored archers. And it seems like maybe DI is wanting to pick a fight here. He's kind of seen... If I was DI, let me put it this way. If I was him, I'd be looking at this as a potential opportunity. Most of his units are heavily armed and armored, and a lot of these skirmishers don't last very well in melee. And the Rhudaur infantry is comparatively small. One thing he does not know about, however, is these Trollshot Axe Throwers. I don't know. This could be interesting. If the Spearmen are able to be brought to bear as well and able to support an attack from, say, the Gondor Cavalry against the Rhudaur Trollshot Axe Throwers, then I don't know. Could end up in DI's favor. We'll see. I don't know if he's out of ammunition yet. Doesn't seem like it. One of his units is. That must be why he's moving forward. So, there is the possibility for some nastiness here. But I think Rhudaur is going to have DI's number. You can see the Fountain Guard. Oh, just being targeted down by the Coldfell Maidens. Very unfortunate. And a lot of arrow fire going into them as well. This is not what you want. Oh, and they're going to come within range of... Where are they? I know that they're here somewhere, those Ettenmoor Troll Hunters. Those nasty little buggers. Yeah, the Fountain Guard leading the way is just asking for your Fountain Guard to get destroyed. So this is definitely a deployment error here, I think, on the part of DI. And his whole army is rushing forward now. This is looking... Well, to put it bluntly, it's seeming a little bit hurried. DI has kind of run out of steam in the skirmish fight. And... yeah, he's kind of he's maybe moving forward a little bit before he knows what the capabilities of his enemies are, I should say. What do we got here? Oh, the Trollshot Axe Throwers! Oh, into the Candle Threatening Bodyguard. That's gonna be nasty. Looks like DI didn't see it. Oh, they're gonna have their opportunity here. Oh, they managed to get just out of range before that was completely disastrous. Coldfell Maidens charging into the Gondor Cavalry. I would give that to the Gondor Cavalry, honestly. But let's go ahead and slow things down here just so we don't miss too much. Yeah, I would definitely give that to the Gondor Cavalry. They are far superior in both their armor values and their attack. I think their defense is about the same. Over here, got some Gondor Spearmen trying to move in and zone out their Rhudaur Nobles who are moving in very rapidly to support the Gondorian Cavalry. But yeah, DI really didn't see this. I think that might cost him. If those Trollshot Axe Throwers can come in from behind his cavalry and they're pinned against the Rhudaur Nobles, that's going to be game over right there. It's a lot of money that will be down the drain. I don't think the DI will be able to recover from that. Rhudaur Clansmen here, doing surprisingly well against the unit of Gondor infantry, but honestly, I wouldn't expect that to last. Gondorians will be able to surround this unit eventually. Edmure Troll Hunters moving in support. Let's see what's going on the other wing. Coldfell Maidens being bullied out of position by some Gondorian infantry. And some Trollshot Axe Throwers here who are still hiding, and I think DI knows they're here. I doubt that he's forgotten. He's going to try and suss them out with some of his Gondorian Spearmen. But they are going to have an opportunity to toss their throwing axes, but I don't know if they'll be able to turn around in time. If DI sees this, he will be able to capitalize on it. Of course, he's got some cavalry nearby as well. A couple units here, very healthy units of Lancers. That's going to be a problem for Rhudaur, but there is a problem. The rest of his army is kind of lagging behind here a little bit. And the archers are not having the greatest time. They are going to beat those spearmen from the looks of things, but there are no units nearby that can be rapidly used to reinforce. And that's going to leave some of the forces on the flank feeling a little bit isolated. And not too happy. 25 Fountain Guard remain. Oh my goodness, they probably got skewered by the Troll Hunter. Yeah, the Edmure Troll Hunters. Let's see what we got going on over here. Looks like the Gondorians have been massacred. And I think that ended up coming down to the Trollshot Axe Throwers. Candle Threatening Bodyguard really looking the worse for wear at this point. The Axe Throwers have been engaged in melee, so they're not going to be able to toss anything. And the Lancers are really good, and these guys don't have a lot of melee defense or armor. But the damage is done. The cavalry fight on this wing is lost, and the Rhudaur Nobles have taken next to no damage. This is really looking grim for DI. Let's see what we got going on over here. Ooh. Is that javelin volley? Maybe trying to toss it. It seems like some of the unit here is obstructed and they can't throw their entire payload all at once. Rhudaur Clansman surprisingly not losing this fight, and I think that's a bit crazy, but I think that it's because of the Enmore Troll Hunters, and the center line hasn't even been engaged yet. Yeah, I think this is going to be a pretty solid Rhudaur victory. The percentages are even at this point, but for how much longer, really? Ooh, a nasty javelin volley at point blank into the Gondor Spearman. That might even cause a rout right there. That's how much damage that's going to cause. Ooh, nasty indeed. Go ahead, and we're going to speed things up a little bit. And they are taking archer fire as time goes on. Cavalry coming in from the rear, trying to get a piece of those Enmore Troll Hunters and just shut them down. Coldfell Maidens over here, fleeing in the face of is that 2 units of Pinthgaling Cavalry? Yeah, one of the depleted units, and another full health unit of Pinthgaling Cavalry. Honestly, I would have used the Pinthgaling Cavalry to charge down the axe throwers and the rest, and use the Gondor Cavalry to fight against the Coldfell Maidens, because they're going to have a way better opportunity to beat that unit than the Pinthgaling Cavalry would, because they are just merely Lancers. And it seems like DI might be trying to charge into the rear of the Coldfell Maidens, maybe get a rear charge on the Herenadine Nobles. Gondor Spearmen over here, outflanked, surrounded, being attacked in the rear by a fear-causing unit. I don't know if they're going to be able to hang out for too much longer. Seems like DI is kind of swapping maniples here, moving in with the unit of Gondor Cavalry to keep this unit of Trollshot Axe Throwers busy, and they get another nice cycle charge off against them, and moving in his Gandalf's Threatening Bodyguard a little bit closer to his Spearmen so that they are able to stand up to that, to the fear effect just a little bit better. Rear charge here by the Pinthgaling Cavalry. Ooh, into the Enmore Troll Hunters. That is going to be nasty indeed. Charge into the Rhudaur Marksman by those Pinthgaling Cavalry. Oh, that's just going to be devastating. But there's no hammer, or no, there's no anvil rather to the hammer of the Pinthgaling Cavalry. So once they manage to chew their way through these guys, well, it's not really anything on the front line that they're going to be able to support. DI is moving forward with his Guards of Osgiliath and his Ramsecor Garrison now, taking out what remains of the Dunmen Spearmen. Is there just one unit here? That's going to be tough. He does have some supporting units nearby, though, so he might be able to beat the Rhudaur infantry in a 1-to-1 fight. And his cavalry is kind of running amok in the back line, so DI, through some skillful cavalry macro, or rather micro, is managing to pull it back a little bit here. Although the Gondor Spearmen against the Witch Helmet Slavers, that's going to be pretty easy for them. What we got back here? 109 Nobles now coming to bully the Pinthgaling Cavalry. Oh, they're going to get a charge off here. And all of DI's good work, I think, is going to get undone very, very quickly here if this unit of Pinthgaling Cavalry routs. Ooh, that would be very bad indeed. What do we got over here? Gandalf's Threatening Bodyguard fighting against the Coldfell Maidens. I think there's some Spear Cavalry mixed in there as well. Trollshot Axe Thrower is now freed up from the Gondorian Cavalry. Actually, the Gondorian Cavalry could be very useful here. They could sweep away most of those Trollshot Axe Throwers in a charge, and then get in here against the Coldfell Maidens. God, there's way too many weird names for Rhudaur, and even out the fight with the Gandalf's Threatening Bodyguard. That would be a really nice sandwich there. You wipe out a lot of important units quite quickly. How are we doing over here? Oh man, the Gondorians and the Fountain Guard, they're just bogged down in this unit of clansmen, not really able to do a whole lot. Let's see what we got in the back. 109 Nobles disengaging from the fight. I think that they've managed to basically destroy the unit of Pinthgaling Cavalry. I don't even see them anymore. Yeah, there they are. They're down to 4. That's not great. Gondorian Spearmen here, disengaging from that fight with the Angmar Witch Roman Slavers, but they're getting attacked in the rear by a fear-causing unit. Very unfortunate indeed. Over here on the wing, though, Fountain Guards and a lot of these Gondorian infantry are going to be able to destroy this unit of Rhudaur Clansmen. Over here, Spearmen not doing so hot against the Edinburgh Troll Hunters. There's not very many of them left over. You know, I have Herenadine Pikemen here about to get sandwiched between some Fountain Guard and some Ramsecor Garrison and some Guards of Osgiliath as well, who for some reason are shaken. I don't know why. What do we got over here? Looks like these Herenadine Pikes have been kind of pulled out of position. I think the Guards of Osgiliath would probably do best to maybe turn around, form a spear wall, and make the Herenadine Pikemen come to them with a hill advantage. Probably the better thing to do in this case. Charge over here by the Gondorian Cavalry into the Rhudaur Marksmen. That's going to hurt. It's going to hurt a lot. Over here, though, the Fountain Guards are being outflanked by another unit. It looks like the Edmure Troll Hunters have now joined the fray. Not a ton of them left over, but it is going to tell against the Gondorians. What we got here? Gandalf's Threatening Bodyguard trying to take out what's left of the Trollshot Axe Throwers. Still got a lot of Coldfell Maidens and a fair amount of Rhudaur Clansmen over here as well. Let's take a look at the percentages. Still dead even. So it's anybody's game at this point. We got here some Gondorian spearmen being crushed under the weight of the Angmar enslavers, alongside some Dunman hunters. I mean, the percentages are even, but I don't know how DI is going to win this. Maybe if he manages to break these Rhudaur pikemen very quickly, that can make all of the difference. Rhudaur clansmen over here getting absolutely massacred. Gondor is definitely in a good position over on this end, but elsewhere that same cannot be said for their army, which is surrounded or outmaneuvered or just being crushed under the sheer weight of the ferocity of Rhudaur. Ooh, yeah, I think the Guards of Osgiliath here might start to rout. This is really unfortunate. They are kind of being surrounded and attacked in the rear, which is why this unit, I think, is faring so poorly. It looks like they're actually being shot as well by the Rhudaur marksmen. That's going to be a rout right there. I would be very surprised if the guys did not break. Yeah, now they're being surrounded. Yeah, these guys are not long for this world. And the rest of the Rhudaur reinforcements are being shifted over to their left wing to try and deal with the Gondorians. Oh man, they've really not done anything to the Rhudaur pikemen. Very unfortunate indeed. Come on, Guards of Osgiliath. Hold on just a little bit longer. No, they broke. They fought well and for quite a long time at a very big disadvantage. And there goes the Gondorian general. I think this is game over. Very unfortunate. Is that breaking or just repositioning? I think the Gondorians, with the loss of their general, I don't think they're going to be able to stand. 76, yep, the Rhudaur player is starting to pull it back here. Oop, lag. That's very unfortunate. These guys have held very, very long and very well, I have to say. But we're getting that weird bug here where units in spear wall formation will actually turn themselves around and get slaughtered. Unfortunate. It's something you have to kind of pay attention to, but it does reduce the effectiveness of units that use spear wall formation, which is unfortunate. Well, hopefully we can find a way to fix it in the future. Gondorians have reformed battle lines, however, although even the Fountain Guard are considering routing at this point. I do not think the Gondor is long for this world at this point. Yeah, and Rhudaur is slowly but surely grinding them down. Very sad. Very sad indeed. Some Gondor infantry, it looks like they just came back from routing. DI, I'm sure, will throw them back into the fray once they are reformed and ready to move. But the rest of this Gondorian pocket of resistance is looking like it's on the verge of complete collapse. And I think that the arrival of some reinforcements here from the Gondorian infantry is going to be too little too late. Although, strangely enough, it's materialized, but if those Fountain Guards start to break... Oh no, we're dipping back into wavering. Poor Gondor. Ooh, these guys are being countered by a charge here from the Rhudaur marksmen. Gondor infantry are very good, though. Assuming that they don't rout, they would actually beat. I would assume most of these Rhudaur marksmen, or nah, maybe not all of them. And there you have it. A rout there from Gondor with the loss of their general is just too much for the rank and file to bear, especially the disadvantage that they are at. And there you have it. So some pretty key mistakes there from Gondor. A little bit too zealous with their cavalry in the early game. It did cost them some numbers that would have been useful moving into the close quarters engagement with Rhudaur. And yeah, a few mistakes, like a few micro mistakes which can happen to anybody, but also not seeing those Trollshaw Axe Throwers. I think that ended up being really big, and it came back to bite DI quite literally in the butt once his cavalry was engaged against the Rhudaur Hereditary nobles. So yeah, there's a few things there that I think sealed Gondor's fate, but overall it was a pretty good game. Let's take a look at some of the kills here. I'm expecting a lot of kills on the javelins, and probably also on the pikemen. Yeah, the maidens did well. Edmore Trollhunters did extremely well. Axe throwers did alright, but really a lot of those kills were on cavalry, so that ended up being some expensive assets that DI just wasn't able to utilize as effectively as he might have otherwise been able to had those Trollshaw Axe throwers not been brought. So there you have it, a nice little 1v1, very tactical, very entertaining, and it really does kind of highlight... well, 1v1s in general really highlight mistakes that people make or successes that they have and that sort of thing. So for that reason, I do like to cover them a little bit more than the team battles, because one, we've had a lot of team battles, and two, there's a lot more going on, and it's not always clear what exactly leads to what. So in this particular instance, I really did like doing a 1v1, a small scale battle, over a larger team battle. But in any case, it's enough from me. I hope you guys enjoy this, and I'll see you next time. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye!